We are back with another edition of the Dolphin Insider. I'm here with Scott Manze, as I am every single week. I am Patrick Wilkins. And the Jacksonville Dolphins played Edward Waters in the inaugural Jacksonville Classic, obviously a crosstown rival now of the Dolphins, and put up 49 points, gave up 28 points, which is the unfortunate aspect of the game. But Cade Bell throws 6 touchdowns, spreads the ball around to 5 different touchdown receivers, and really showed that shoulder might not be that much of an issue for him right now.
Right, and there's still moments certainly where you see Cade play and you say, you know, is he sometimes trying to do too much? Is he thinking too much out there? Part of the advantage to a quarterback like Cade Bell, I think that he does well when plays start to break down at times, such as the first touchdown on the spin move followed by a shovel pass to Jamal Adjemo, spun his way into the end zone, and sometimes you see him. And he's trying so hard to make a play with his arm, he forgets that he has pretty good wheels too and can get out there and scramble for some yardage. So, you know, it wasn't the cleanest game in the world.
Not at all.
But you can't sit there and scoff at 6 touchdown passes and over 400 yards of offense. Again, for this JU team that leads the Pioneer Football League in total offense. And you put up 49, that's a season high output. But you give up 28, which is also a season high. And you hope that kind of a middle of the year, middle to late year non-conference opponent, last of the 3 games at home, you kind of shake out some of the rust there, and then you refocus on what I'm sure is going to be a tough week of practice this weekend, ready for Drake.
Getting ready for a Drake squad that the Jacksonville Dolphins have never beaten on the road. Drake is the only school in the Pioneer Football League that the Dolphins have an all-time losing record to. And it's almost like the Dolphins got caught looking ahead to Drake, maybe falling asleep on assignments that they shouldn't have been falling asleep on. The defense gives up its first 100-yard rusher for the first time since 2013. And, you know, without a couple of picks, which the defense is known for, we're talking about a completely different ballgame here.
Right. JU now +8 in turnover differential, which is second in the Pioneer Football League, and it's up there in the country as well. They finished +9 last year. They have an ability to create turnovers, and none bigger than the one that DJ Howard came over and forced, that Terrence Bryant recovered late in the game when Edward Waters looked like they were going to punch it in and make it a 1-score game.
Exactly.
And you're sitting fourth quarter, and you're only leading by a score over an NAIA opponent at home. You know, you're sitting there going, what has happened? But get the turnover, a couple series later, you end up punching in kind of an emphatic final score for LSU's Bryant, his second touchdown of the game, and you can kind of shake it off. I mean, at the end of the day, a win's a win. And,
you're absolutely right.
It still says 6-0. It's still the best start in school history. History made every single week. They continue to win this year because this program has never won this many games to start a year without losing one. So they're still on the way to try and make history. They're determined to repeat. That's the slogan, and they are right back into the thick of the PFL chase, and maybe their 2 toughest games remaining coming up these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, they are 6-0 and really don't show any signs of slowing down unless it is an NAIA opponent like Edward Waters College. You mentioned Ulysses Bryant, 7 catches, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns, adds 11 carries and 75 yards as well. Shows his versatility, shows his athleticism, and as you mentioned before we started the show, was really held and contained the first 3 games and now has just exploded onto the scene and has really showed that he could quite possibly be the best player on this team.
Right. He can do a little bit of everything. Talked to him last week prior to the game and asked him some questions about, you know, getting touches, and of course he wants as many as he can. He's a running back. I also asked him about whether he likes getting handoffs and going between the tackles and earning yardage the hard way, or if he likes getting those swing passes out of the backfield where he can make a move and all of a sudden he's got 15, 20 yards down the sideline. He couldn't make up his mind. He says he loves contact.
He just wants the ball.
He loves contact as a running back, so he loves earning them hard, but he loves being able to stick a foot in the ground and make somebody look silly. And he's got quite a few receiving touchdowns this year out of the backfield. He's actually already climbing up there as I believe he's the 3rd highest or most catches for a receiver on this team now, as he's continuing logging 5, 6 a game over the last couple of weeks. And there's no reason not to continue to involve him because he has been certainly electric out of the backfield He makes men miss in the open field, makes plays with the football in his hand, and seeing a healthy Yuli Bryan out there has been huge.
I think the fact that Yuli is nowhere in the first 3 games and has exploded in these last 3 games shows not only the depth that the Dolphins has, but it shows the balance on an offensive attack that we have. You can try and zone in on Ulysses Bryant, who was so efficient in 2014, as a lot of teams did those first 3 games, but then Cade Bell's going to beat you. Or you can pull back and play the pass, and Ulyss or Jamal Agema are going to beat you. It's a really balanced offensive attack, and it's really it's momentum that the Dolphins need heading to Iowa this week.
It's almost an embarrassment of riches at times, and I wonder if that makes it almost harder to call a play. You know, when you're sitting there going, we could get it to any one of 6 guys out on the field who we think can make a play right now. Which one do we get it to?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Is that a good problem to have? Perhaps. We've seen that it certainly has led to plenty of yards being put up and a lot of drives this year. And finally, it was nice to see last game some of those drives finishing a little better. But if there's certainly one thing that this offense needs to continue to work on, it's finishing drives when you get into the opponent's side of the field and not turning the ball over in the red zone. JU is so good at taking the ball away in the red zone. But they're also they've almost turned it over in the red zone as many times as they've taken it away. So they need to go for these final 5 games, find a way to go ahead and buckle down, clean up. I mean, this is the time where you say there's always things to work on. You can always get better. Well, this is the point where there needs to be less each and every week that you need to work on to get better, and you need to just be showing the results of that.
I spoke with Kerwin Bell before the game, and he mentioned the process, the Tuesday through Thursday practices, and how they really need to focus in on everything Tuesday through Thursday, be the best you can be Tuesday through Thursday to prepare yourself for Saturday. They seemed to have done that this past week. They're going to need another staunch performance from these guys coming on Saturday, just because the travel to Iowa, you're gaining an hour. It's a switch of time and everything like that for these players. And again, they can't possibly just overcome the thought of we have yet to beat these guys here. It's a challenge that they're having to face. They have an all-time losing record to Drake. Drake is just 3-4 on the year, 2-2 in Pioneer Football League. So they're not the greatest of squads that the Dolphins have faced, but there's just that thought in the back of the head of these players that could quite possibly be the doom of this undefeated season so far.
Well, you hope that they're thinking more along the lines of we just beat these guys last year at our place, and less along the lines of
let's go back to
back.
back.
We've never beaten these guys here in Des Moines. And there's obviously more players that were a part of last year's win that were a part of 2 years ago's loss. So I mean, there's no reason why, if Jacksonville prepares well this week, as you said, goes out focused, jumps on Drake early, and rides it out in a complete 60-minute game, they shouldn't beat him because, as you just pointed out, they're an average football team. They're good at home, but they're an average football team. They're coming off getting shut out on the road against San Diego, who's one of the favorites to win the Pioneer Football League this year last week. But outside of 2 things really that they do well, getting after the quarterback, they have 21 sacks on the season, which is 2nd in the Pioneer Football League. And then their running back, Conley Wilkins, averages 78 yards per game on the ground. He's scored 6 touchdowns this year, which is near the tops of the PFL. And then he's best in all-purpose yards per game with 145. So if you can protect Cade, and he's very good at avoiding sacks because of his ability to scramble, and then if you can contain what is sort of a one-sided offense, which really just features Wilkins and not a whole lot else that jumps off the page at you, then this team should feel pretty confident going into Saturday's game.
I must mention that Conley Wilkins is no relation of me. We just share the last name. Cade Bell, in my opinion, has to really focus on not making the mistakes that we've seen him make throughout his entire career. He's got the ability to get outside of the pocket and to extend plays, extend drives, but that's when he tends to make his biggest mistakes. He tries to do too much with an arm that isn't as strong as it has been in the past because of that shoulder strain. We saw a very costly turnover in the red zone that was returned 100 yards for a touchdown to open up the scoring this past week against Edward Waters. He's got to cut down on the mistakes. He's got to cut down on the interceptions, because turnovers lead to momentum in the other direction. And on the road, you do not want to get caught with the momentum on the other side of the field. If we are able to keep the turnovers down, if Cade Bell's able to protect the football and not throw it away and throw interceptions, I think that the Dolphins do really well. I'd like to see the ball run constantly. I think it's an away game. We maybe back off of the pass just a little bit, Coach Bell, just a little bit. And, give the ball 17, 20 times to Yuli Bryant and see what he can do between the tackles. I like the Dolphins to finally overcome that hurdle of winning on the road at Drake. I'd like to see maybe a 28-14 victory from the Dolphins and continue the best start in school history to 7-0. What do you think, Scott?
Going 28-21. Dolphins prevail. It's, Cade Bell has not had a game where he hasn't turned over the ball yet this season. But when you have the ball in your hand so much, certainly that plays into it. I am curious. I'm going to ask Coach Bell tomorrow, in fact. I'm going to ask him about that, the turnovers versus the amount of opportunities to turn the ball over and what he thinks along those lines. But, yeah, I agree. This is Jay's a better football team. So if you go out there and take care of business the way that is going to be emphasized a lot this week in practice after last week's game, in which business was not taken care of, certainly the way the coaching staff wanted it to be, and they should go out there and win. But it's not going to be a blowaway.
Scott Manze will be traveling with the team. He will be on the play call. You can hear it on 92.5 FM here in Jacksonville or mixlr.com/JU Dolphins. You'll be with Nolan this weekend, right?
Yep, it'll be Nolan Alexander and I on the call.
Stick around, guys. We'll be back for another episode of Dolphin Insiders next week. For Scott Manze, I am Patrick. Thank you guys so much.